What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coach to Coach podcast. We've got episode 11. We're on 11, right?
12. I
I
think
think it's
11 was
11.
last week. Because last week we
I
were
don't
even
know.
like, are we in double digits? Is it 10? So I think last week was 11. This is 12.
I'll figure it out before I post it, but
Yeah.
today we're going to do a little catch up to start the podcast, and then we'll get into the main topic, which is going to be food guilt. That's pretty much going to be what we're talking about today. There might be some other things that we can throw in, but I think the topic of food guilt is one that, there's a lot you can go over. So I expect to, be able to cover a lot on that. So yeah, what's going on? How's this week been since I talked to you last?
Yeah,
Anything new?
just another solid week. Training, diet, everything's going well. Um, all my lifts are up. Body's feeling good. I only have 4 training days. Yesterday I went in, just walked a little bit, had a little stretching day. That felt pretty good. Did my body well. I was feeling refreshed today and stuff like that. Clients are all doing really well too. So yeah, I really got no complaints. What about yourself?
I'm finally like 100% over being sick. I got like a little bit of like phlegmy type stuff, but I would say I'm like 99.9% over being sick. So that's great. Entering the third week of the growth phase, and food is getting up there, getting into the 4,000 calorie range this week. Some of my lifts, the big lifts that I'm progressing, squat, bench, and deadlift, those are getting into some decent numbers. Not anything crazy, but like squat is approaching 300, which is, it's not a lot, but for me and where I'm coming from, it is a lot. I think my best squat was in competition. All my best lifts are in competition. I never really like maxed out a whole lot in the gym. I think my best squat is like a 661, or that might have been 663, something like that. There's more in the tank for sure. But yeah, I think in my best, maybe I was, 650, 675 squatter,
Wow.
something like that. Bench press and training is getting up into the 300s as well, which is cool. And I think my best bench in competition was like 440, maybe 440 something. The kilo numbers, they're all weird.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
it's all
kilos,
weird.
so it's always some fucking weird number. But I think about 440 pounds, maybe 445, something like that. And deadlifts and training, we're starting to get up into the 500s, which is it's honestly it's feeling heavy, but it's moving. I'm sticking to the plan. But comparing that to my biggest deadlift ever, 737 pounds. It's still, I'm not really expecting to get back to that point. I don't even know if I would want to.
Right,
I
right.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to redline my body like that, because if I were to suffer, an injury trying to do some sort of a 1 rep max, it would just be absolutely catastrophic for me at this point. So, even though I'm focused on getting stronger, I'm focused on getting stronger with multiple reps. I have no desire to do a 1 rep max and just see how strong I am. It would give me
Yeah,
nothing. It's pure risk, no reward.
yeah, definitely.
Outside of that, I had a client that competed on Saturday, Angela, and she competed in a powerlifting competition. It was her first competition after like a 4-year layoff. So she had previously competed a couple times, but first competition after like a 4-year layoff. We worked together previously. She stepped away from the coaching, came back, said, "Hey, I need to get back in shape. I'm doing this meet, as a kind of like a catalyst to give me some motivation."
Sure.
And so we dropped her about 23 pounds into her weight class. And I told her, I was like, "Hey, we can have in our back pocket, we can have water manipulation." Okay. So very easy. If you know what you're doing with water manipulation and carbs, and sodium, you can pull off a tremendous amount of weight very quickly. with minimal effort. It doesn't have to be anything super crazy. But I told her, I said, hey, we can have that in our back pocket, but ultimately, because your long term goal is to lose weight, I think that we want to make sure that the majority of the weight that you lose in this prep is legitimate body fat. You know what I mean? And in order to do that, we had to stay on a timeline. So luckily, everything came together. We were able to stay on that timeline and hit our targets in terms of body weight loss week by week. Training performance never dipped down, and we just got into a really good groove in the 8 weeks or so prior to competition, and everything just came together beautifully. She ended up going 9 for 9, had some body weight PRs, fantastic, And now from this point, gonna continue trying to get into better shape. So, that's something that's was really exciting. I was super super happy for her, and just proud, and just so happy everything came together the way that it did.
Yeah, congrats to the both of you. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to give credit to her powerlifting coach, so that did the programming, because I just handled nutrition. Charlie Blinky. I might be butchering his last name. It's either Binky or Blinky,
Okay.
but he did her programming, and that's a situation I find myself in a lot. TJ Schliff,
Yeah.
so he refers me out a lot of nutrition clients where his main focus is, hey, I'm handling the training, right, the programming. And so he has kind of limited bandwidth for what he can give his clients in terms of nutrition. He can give generalities. He understands nutrition. You know what I mean? Like he understands nutrition, but when you're talking about, like, there's a lot of nuance in nutrition coaching. Like with what I do, there's a lot of details and stuff, but a lot of it is also managing the person's personality. A lot of it is beyond just, here's a macro plan. It really does get into some of those social and personal skills, and that's what I'm good at. So, yeah. So let's get into our first topic here, or it's probably going to be our only topic. So you had somebody send you something about food guilt. So give me, like, kind of paint the picture for me here with this, okay?
Yeah. I mean, we both know her.
Mm-hmm.
She had it was a bit of like a work party, and there's not really, she brought food. She like brought her own food and stuff like that, so she was like prepared, but she did have, I think, like one or two drinks, something like that. And
Okay.
I had saw her at the gym yesterday, and we were just talking a little bit, going back and forth. um, and she had noticed that her training wasn't where she wanted to be at, and so she was starting to like beat herself up a little bit, um, about the drinks that she had, because it's affecting training. And I guess just like a common thing that she'll feel is like guilty, or it'll weigh on her for quite a while, for days after she eats whatever she eats, or goes off plan for a meal or two, or a couple food options or two. And she was just interested in what our take was.
Okay. So yeah, I know her. She's a client of mine. So she actually put this in her check-in. Um, so yeah, I have those details too, and I kind of understand where we're coming from on this. I want to touch on one of the things that you or she said specifically, is that that following day she had a training session that performance just wasn't where she wanted it to be at, or where she would expect it to be at based on previous training sessions. And I think something that is important to note, especially for people that are like, that really are like driven by numbers, or driven by that performance aspect, or you can have bad training sessions even when everything is perfect. You can have a terrible day even when you slept perfect, you hydrated perfect, you ate perfect, stress was low. Bad days happen, and sometimes there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. So in that specific note, what I would say is, don't ever get look for why you would have a bad training session. Try to have a correlation, and because that can be useful in the future. But don't put too much weight into it, because ultimately you can have a bad training session even when everything is perfect. And also just kind of zoom out, right? Like, you know, I might have a client that's like, my training performance is, my strength is going down. And they'll put that in the check-in, and it's like red alert. It's like red flags, right? And I have to kind of ground them and be like, hey, your strength went down in one lift on one session this one week. That's not your strength decreasing. That's a one-off. Let's pull back. Let's zoom out and see how many weeks has your strength, in the last 4 weeks, what has your strength done? Oh, it's been increasing on average? Okay, great. Your strength's not going down. So I would really only put a lot of weight into that sort of thing if that trend is really continuing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think for this type of thing too, I think like the context matters. So like if you're like a general like fitness like gym goer, like you just want to be in better shape, like there are methods and stuff that you can use to like still have foods that you like enjoy and like go off the plan a little bit, where it's not like the end of the world if you go off, for you have one night where you have a couple beers, you have a seltzer or something like that, and it's not going to completely like ruin everything. Your entire week's success is not based on that one thing that wasn't according to plan. But like if you're like a competitor, like things like that are going to show, and if you're constantly doing that type of thing, I think, or like the stakes are higher, then that could just be their their self telling them something is like, you need to stop doing this and it needs to be addressed.
Right. Right. Let me approach this from a little bit of a different angle too. Um, that phrase, food guilt. Have you? And let's kind of get our personal angles on it. Okay. Like our own personal experiences. Have you ever like found yourself at any point in time, whether it's in the time that we've been working together or prior, where you had guilt around food that you ate, and maybe you weren't supposed to, or it
Yeah,
wasn't aligned with what your goals were?
yeah, definitely. um and most of the time it's not even like, oh, like, I just messed everything up. To me, it's like after I eat whatever it is, it most of the time it's like a piece of candy or like a couple pieces of candy. 'Cause I can keep myself like pretty on point. So if I do those types of things, I'm not going off the rails. But I would literally just look at it and be like, was it even worth it? Is the way that I was feeling before and the way that I'm feeling now like worth it? No. So that's just something that I have to remember for next time, is like, well, you know, that eating that food or doing whatever it is like, it feels a lot more immediate, or I'm drawn to it more because it feels like I can't have it. And then once I do have it,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, nothing even really changed anyways. It's like it really doesn't make a difference. It doesn't really get me closer to looking how I want to look. It's not gonna like change my performance the next day. So like, it wasn't even necessary to have.
I think a lot of the food focus that we can get doing this stuff is kind of an artifact of what you said. It's the idea that you can't have this thing, and then you want it even more. But if you could have that thing, you might not even want it at all. You might not even think about it. It's kind of like a young child. They tell them no, and they want to do it even more. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. That's psychological component, and that's where I think that in the right situation, like having a flexible diet approach, IIFYM, if you will, can be useful because everything's available to you. But I think when you're using a system like that, you have to be really honest with yourself, because it's easy to abuse it. It's easy to go from, like, I'm going to work little things in here and there to keep my overall pleasure in a good spot to going to like just completely abandoning all sound nutritional strategies, and you are just eating food that is void of real nutrients. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced like binge eating, or like having a moment where like you start eating and you just can't fucking stop?
A couple of times. A couple of times. Luckily, not any time recently. Like not within the last, I would say like year, 2 years. Um, but yeah, as someone who I used to eat if I was bored or it would be like an emotional thing, like and food was just there. Like, um, yeah, I would just do that. But since for me, just like being structured and like having a clear goal in mind and stuff like that, I'm able to stay away from it. It helps just not having the food around me too, or not putting myself in situations where, I'm hungry and I'm out and I'm just gonna go crazy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I do a pretty good job of planning ahead for that stuff. Whether
But
it's eating before or you know,
so you don't have any? Do you have any like specific situations that like stick out in your mind that you remember where you were like you've been like specific scenarios? Like I'm just curious. If you don't, that's fine.
yeah,
That's probably a good thing.
yeah.
But I'm just wondering if you have any specific scenarios in which you binge ate, and kind of what you were thinking and feeling after that.
Um, Not off the top of my head. I know like when it comes to pastries and stuff like that. Bun cakes. I love bun cakes, but if it was like I'd have a bun cake and then I'd go to cookies, and then I would go to probably just whatever sweets. But there's not like one instance where I can remember being like, just throwing everything away, like just throwing it all away, kind of like not caring and just eating a bunch of food. I've never had like a situation like that, but there's been times
Okay.
where it's just like sweet after sweet after sweet, um, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I need to stop, and then I just end up feeling like crap after, like my body does. Um,
Right. Right.
so
Um,
yeah,
I actually have a bunch of very specific scenarios that I will probably never forget. But I've also like I've been doing this for a while, over a decade, right? 27 to 39. So well over a decade. Probably a little bit before I was 20. No, I started enhancements when I was 26. So probably since I was 24, I was getting pretty serious about like the fitness side of things. And most of my early focus point was being lean. So Shred Quest. That's what that was about, was the quest to be fucking shredded. So most of my years, probably the majority of my years that I've been doing this, I've been focused on being lean, like getting bigger, and like bodybuilding. Like that's relatively, I don't want to say new, but that wasn't the focal point until um I was exposed to that a little bit later. I had no idea what bodybuilding was. I just wanted to look better and be strong. Like, you know what I mean?
sure,
So because my focus point in some of those initial years was being lean, that exposed me to a lot of situations in which like I would overeat because I didn't understand like how hard it is to actually be lean. And I've gotten very lean many times in this whole process. And I remember the first binge that I had very clearly. I was living in a basement apartment on the east side of Elgin at this point in time, and I was working a labor job, out delivering like heavy like HVAC duct work and stuff like that all day long, and I was fucking shredded. I was fucking shredded, and I'd been following Mark Lobliner. Actually, he has a diet that I still think is a great framework for anybody, and it's free. You can get this online. It's called the Drop Factor Diet, and it's a really straightforward approach. But but I followed that, and I'm on it. Like, I'm on it. I'm seeing great results. I'm doing a free meal once a week, and and I'm like militant at this point. I don't have all of the knowledge that I have now at that point, right? So I am chicken and rice, sweet potato and rice, chicken and rice and broccoli, chicken and sweet potato and broccoli, Miss Dash, no sodium, like no sauces. I am fucking raw dogging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm getting great results, and I'm super lean. And then one day, like, I just fucking snapped. Like, I snapped and I started eating peanut butter, and I couldn't fucking stop. It was one of the like, it was like a chocolate flavored peanut butter. Those used to be real
Okay.
big back in the day because at that point they were kind of new, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
there was like a cinnamon one, and there was like a chocolate one, and all sorts of different flavored peanut butters. And I started eating this shit, and like, I just couldn't fucking stop. And I ended up eating basically, a whole jar of peanut butter, and I was still I still ended up logging that food. I still logged what I ate, and that's something that I've done for a really long time, and I think that that can be super valuable. To just see it, like, see what you
Yeah.
did, like, don't just brush it off, like, see what you did. So I was logging it, and I remember looking at it and being like, oh my God, I think I had like 200 grams of fat for that day. And I didn't really know much. I'm like, am I going to die? Am I going to have a heart attack? Like, this is so much fat. Like, have I like ruined my physique? And like I'm just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
And the next day I get into the gym and I train, and I've just got like a crazy fucking pump, like crazy vascularity. And it's strange because it was like a lot of fat on that day. But like crazy pump, crazy vascularity. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I think a lot of what it was is just like I was low calorie, super lean for a long time. I didn't know about diet breaks or kind of pushing and pulling. I plugged a bunch of food in, a bunch of calories in, and my body relaxed. Intramuscular triglycerides probably, they replenished a little bit, and I had a really fucking awesome training session. So on one hand, I was like, damn, like, I think I fucked up my progress, like I'm spiraling out. But on the other hand, I'm like, I gotta really, I look kind of fucking cool. And I like this feeling. But it wasn't really until I started working with a coach, that I kind of, and from that. So let me rewind off of that, because what I would end up doing in situations like that would be basically, it's binge and restrict. So
Yeah.
I overeat and say, hey, I need to restore balance. And so I'm going to undereat the next day. It's almost like I don't know if reward punishment. It's a binge and restrict cycle. You go way over on this day, so I'm going to go way under on this day,
Yep.
and that's going to make everything okay. And I think that that can work to some degree. I think it's a very slippery slope, because if you let that get out of control, it ends up in not a great place. But I got into that a little bit, the binge and restrict. And the thing about restricting is that it actually amplifies all of the things that cause you to binge in the first place. Like, very
Yep.
quickly, you had this big binge, something led up to that binge, right? And so you binge, you say, hey, I'm going to get back in track, you restrict, and then you're right back into those same feelings that caused the binge in the first place, but probably amplified now because your food is so low, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't really until I started working with a coach, that I understood that the best way through in this situation is usually just to get back on plan. It's just to get back on plan, acknowledge what you did. I like to, if I ever go off, I like to track it, see what it is, acknowledge what you did, but ultimately just get back on plan. So how I kind of like to approach it is like, if I have a single meal in which I don't go crazy overboard, but maybe I went a little bit overboard, I might look to say, like, hey, can I rectify this in the same day? So, for instance, I went 50 grams of carbs over in meal two. Can I pull out 50 grams of carbs in meal three and rectify this? Yes? Okay, I'll do that. If I've blown my shit completely out of the water at a meal, okay, meal two, you're not coming back from this. There's no macros you can pull. You don't have enough macros to pull. You don't have enough carbs and fats to pull. In that case, what I would suggest is that you simply just move on to your next meal that was programmed. Move on to the next meal that was programmed and just keep going about your day, right? Or if it's something that happens at the end of the day, there's no opportunity for you to rectify this. Hey, just water under the bridge. Just get back onto the plan the next day. And like I said, like I didn't understand this until I started working with the coach, and I didn't have a crazy cheat. I had like swapped around food sources. Again, I'm like kind of militant at this point in time, and I think I had swapped out like chicken and rice for like whey and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So it
Okay.
might have supposed to have been like chicken, rice, avocado, protein, carb, fat, and I swapped it out for you know um, a whey and a peanut butter. I think it was hiking or something like that, right? And
Okay.
I was like beating myself up about it in the check-in, and I was like kind of being neurotic about it. And he was like, "Look, dude, forget all that. There's nothing. I'm not going to drill instructor you. I'm not going to tell you you're a weak person. I'm not, because that's not productive." He's like, all we can do is just get back on plan. Get back
Yeah.
on plan, and that's it. And I was like, okay, so there's nothing that I need to do to rectify this. There's nothing. It's just as simple as get back on plan and don't do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many ways, and ultimately everybody's going to have to develop their own kind of unique strategies to deal with this stuff, because even if I say like, hey, don't worry about it, just get back on plan, there is going to be some level of food guilt, and it's not necessarily food guilt. It's just guilt in knowing that your actions didn't align with your goals. That's the root of it. If you did that at any other aspect of life that had nothing to do with nothing to do with food, you would feel guilty as well. So it's not food, it's human nature, right? Like if you were late to work, you would probably, most people are going to be like, fuck, I shouldn't have been late to work. Like you're going to have some degree of guilt about that. So I don't know that it's just a food thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I had literally with the binge and restrict that you were just talking about, I had a client literally go through that exact thing like this week. Um, it was his high day. He has been operating pretty much at like the same calories, just forever. Um, like he looks good. Like he's in the gym 6 days a week. And he saw that he had a little bit of leeway on his high day, and his last meal is of course the free meal. And he had told me earlier in the day, he's like, you know what? He's like, I don't even really want anything. He's like, I'm just gonna do chicken and rice and just make it line up. Cool, like no problem. Everything's on plan. And then I see him the next day, and I could tell something was off. And he just comes clean to me, and he's like, I'm gonna be honest, dude. He's like, the chicken and rice that I told you that I was gonna have. Um, he's like, didn't have it. He's like, ordered a pizza. He's like, I ate half of it. He's like, my girlfriend kind of had to like stop me because he's like, I saw the extra calorie room that I had. And he's still learning a little bit about food and how we can make things work. And and so he was just feeling horrible about it. And then he wanted to run a low day to correct the next day, which was just he wanted to skip his first meal, and he wanted to do all this. And I was like, well, the one, you technically didn't mess up. Your last meal is a free meal for your high day, so you kind of did it perfect. Um, but he also had a training day, which should have been a medium dieting day the next day, and he was wanting to skip meals and just go to a low calorie day to correct it all because he's beating himself up about it. I'm like, you you did the right thing in when you ate the meal, but two, if you think it's an L, just take your L and just go to the next day. We're supposed to be training. Just eat like you would normally eat, and pretend like it didn't happen, and just literally get right back on plan. Um, but another thing that I had told him too is like if you have these large amounts of food that you're having that you have planned for like your high days, after you eat it, get rid of it, throw it away because it's just gonna talk to you the whole rest of the time that you're on plan. You're gonna see it, and it's gonna, you're gonna, one piece won't hurt me right now, and then it goes to another piece, and then before you know it, you've just been, picking at it throughout the day or picking at it throughout the week, and it's just not doing you any favors.
That's something I've spoke about many times to clients and you, and I will literally buy a pizza, take my 4 slices out, and throw the rest in the garbage
Yeah,
because I
and it
know what's going to
hurts.
happen.
Yep.
I know what's going to happen if I fucking leave that pizza. I'm going to go get more. Why do you like you have to know yourself and keep
Yep.
yourself from yourself? So why would you even put yourself in that situation? If you have a calorie allotment or however you're handling this meal, right? And 4 slices is on plan and 5 slices is not, then motherfucker, you can have 4 slices, not five. So
Yeah.
get rid of the 5 slices. What you're not going to be able to eat this again tomorrow. So what is the point of saving it, right?
Yep.
Most of us, like my clients, your clients, most of them operate on a single free meal each week, right?
Yep.
I have some that do more than that, but mostly it's a single like free meal each week. So why are you going to keep that food around? It's not going to be good a week from now. You're just setting yourself up for failure. Same thing like you're eating out, right? Like you're eating out for your free meal and there's leftovers. Leftovers for what? What are you going to bring it home for?
Right.
Like you just leave it there. You don't want it. I don't want it. Do you want a box? No, I don't want a box. It just don't bring it home because you know what's going to happen. And then I'll get people that say, "Well, it's wasteful." Well, you spent that money regardless.
Yeah.
It's not like the amount of money you spent changes because you didn't eat half of it. You still spent the same amount of money. And the value in that food that you purchased doesn't change either because really it's kind of like you're eating out for the experience. Like you're not necessarily going to have a better experience because you ate more food. Like
Right.
the food was good, got out of the house, had a social environment. You know what I mean? So you're not actually losing anything. All you're doing is making sure that your actions are aligned with the goals that you have and keeping yourself from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And with it,
Um,
with depending on when we drop this, the Super Bowl was yesterday, which I think is
yeah.
one of the holidays or American holidays or times where people are eating the most food. Um,
Yeah, I'm going to have some shit show check-ins, I already know.
yeah, yeah. So the client that I was just referring to though, on point the entire day. He prepared for it. He had meals ready. There was a bit of a social event that he was going to, and he's like, of course there's gonna be food there. There's gonna be snacks and treats and stuff. He's like, I'm just bringing a meal so that I can eat while everyone else eats. And he's like, and I'm not hungry. I'm not thinking about the food. It's not really having an effect. Um, and we like escaped the Super Bowl, untouched. So
In a situation like that, like, and it all depends, like, if I have communication with the client leading up to this event, right? Like, if you tell me about it after the fact, I can't fucking help you. It's already happened, right?
yeah,
But if you say, hey, we've got Super Bowl coming up and I want to be able to enjoy some food with my people. Okay, let's put a fucking plan together, right? So the simplest thing is say, hey, use that as your free meal,
yeah,
right? Oh, you normally do a free meal on Friday and the Super Bowl is on Sunday. Well, guess what? Don't do your free meal on Friday.
yeah,
Why would you? Just save that for Sunday. You get one every 7 days. Super simple. Your normal free meal is whatever you normally get on Friday. Just don't eat that and go ahead and use that for the social event. So that's one way to go about it. That's the
yeah,
simplest thing. And I don't know, I see it a lot with clients where like they say, oh, I had this on this day and then I had this on this day. I'm like, well, you knew about this event. You knew you had this event coming up. Why did you burn your free meal earlier in the week? Right?
yeah,
So outside of that option, just move your free meal. There's also situations in which I might move the diet around on a day. And this it needs to be like like a legitimate, like a big day. Like the Super Bowl is kind of big for some people. It needs to be like a holiday, or like, I guess most holidays I'm telling clients just to have some food, but it needs to be like a legitimate thing. Like we don't want to do this all the time. But in that case, we might be able to kind of bank some calories. We might adjust the diet. I might give them a plan to say, hey, for meals, I only want you eating 4 meals today. You normally eat 6. And for meals, 1, 2, and 3, it's going to be mostly protein, veg. Maybe we do a little bit of fruit or something like that, right? So we're banking some carbohydrates. We're banking fats, because when you eat off plan, that's the two that it is. It's going to be high fat and high carb. Okay, so we're banking some carbs, we're banking some fats, and we might pump the protein up in those meals, right? The protein and veg meal, so that we cover our protein goals for the day, and then that leaves you with a decent chunk of calories from which you can be flexible and do what you want with. But also in that situation, you need to have some sort of understanding of how many calories you're eating of wings and dip and fucking whatever else you eat on Super Bowl. It's not just a free for all, right? So you're going to have to, and I don't expect you to like be with your food scale, weighing your wings and like, like, oh, I got to log my
Yeah.
food. Like I went to my parents' house the other day, right? And we had a nice dinner, and I didn't bring my food scale. I don't need to. But as I'm, putting my plate together, like I'm taking a mental note. Okay, that's about 8 ounces of this. That's about this. That's about this. And then when I sat down to eat, I didn't fucking tell anybody. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't say, hey, I got to log my food real quick, guys. I can't eat this. I can't eat. No, 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 no. I plugged it in, and I was like, okay, we're good to go. And I know what it is about. You know what I mean? Some estimation is better than absolutely none. And so that's something that, I think it takes time to develop some of that. But ultimately, like, what gets measured gets managed. Like, period. What gets measured gets managed. And how you measure a thing, it doesn't have to necessarily always be weight in grams and ounces. It could be visual. It could be, like a reference, like size of your fist, like looking at, like there's so many different ways that you can measure things. Some are obviously more accurate than others, but just generally with all things, what gets measured gets managed. And so, if you want to keep your body in a particular way, you want to keep yourself on a particular trajectory, you're probably going to need to consistently measure things.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, seeing it, measuring it, putting in the effort to make sure that you make everything whole is just the best way to mitigate all of this.
I want to circle back around to something you said about your client, because he had the day of kind of eating a pizza and eating over, and then he was like, "Hey, let's run a low day." Like, it's binge and restrict, right?
Yep.
So when I'm working with clients, like, again, I think there are situations in which you can try to restore balance and adjust course, and that can be just fine. And sometimes if you're on a timeline, you may have to do something like that because you don't have the time to give up. But ultimately, if I'm working with a client, I look at it like this. So the off-plan food, that was a deviation from the plan. Okay. Now, even if we do something to restore balance, adjust course to kind of get you back to baseline faster, that is potentially a positive, and that can help us get back to baseline faster. That is ultimately another deviation from the plan that we have in place for you. So now it's not just one deviation, it's two. And that takes us another step further away from understanding what the diet program at present is doing for you. So again, it's just the best course of action is usually just say, hey, get back on plan. Take inventory, be accountable to it. Try to understand why this happened in the first place, and use that understanding as knowledge in your toolbox to prevent it in the future. But ultimately, just get back onto the plan and go from there.
Yeah, that kind of thinking, I think, just starts a domino effect, because then you're worried about, you're looking at weigh-ins now, and then if the weight's not what you want it to be, then you're just gonna hop on another low day, or you're just gonna miss meals. And yeah, literally what I say is just take your L and just move on. Like, just get right back on plan. The next meal, whatever the next day is supposed to be, the next training session, literally just do exactly what's on plan.
So that just brings up another topic that I can touch on here. Usually when somebody eats, you know, different foods that are maybe higher carbohydrate, higher fat, higher sodium, dirty foods, you're going to see a change in your body weight. And one thing I think it's important to understand is that anytime your weight moves quickly, like from one day to the next, so, you were 200 pounds one day and you're 210 pounds the next day. Anytime weight moves that fast, it's never muscle, and it's never really going to be all fat. So don't get me wrong, you can absolutely accumulate a decent amount of body fat in a single overfeeding. And what is decent, I don't even know. So maybe I shouldn't use the word decent. Maybe I should just say you can absolutely accumulate fat in a single overfeeding. And it depends, it's a spectrum depending on how much you overfed. But to say like, hey, you're not going to gain fat off of a single meal, I don't think that's accurate at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But regardless, you need to understand that what is reflected on that weight scale the next day is basically a lie. Okay, anything that moves that fast to that degree in terms of body weight, it's always going to be water. Okay, so what is the best thing that you can do to get that water weight to stabilize? It is to drink more water. So cheat meals, again, sodium, high carb, both of water follows sodium. So if you have a big jump in your sodium intake, that is going to cause you to retain water. Okay. So what do you do the next day? Drink the fuck out of some water. Get yourself flushing. When I mean flushing, pissing. Get yourself urinating at an absolutely annoying rate. Like, every, I don't know, 20 minutes, you're going to the bathroom and you're just pissing and pissing and pissing and pissing and pissing. And you'll find that your weight will stabilize pretty quickly. But you're just trying to get yourself to the point where you're flushing, 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 flushing. And that can be something that can help you to kind of get the weight data back to baseline sooner than later.
That's actually a great tip. That's something I did not know.
Yeah. And same thing. Like if I have women that are, coming into their menstrual cycle, like a lot of times they'll get bloated and they'll kind of feel a little blah and they'll want to like change things on their plan. And I'm like, no, just all you can do. This is a part of your, biology as a woman. It comes every single month. Like we know what to expect. We know that things skew around this time. Visuals and your body weight have the potential to skew. It's okay. All you can do is just increase your water intake a little bit. Increase your water intake a little bit and get yourself flushing consistently, and that's it. You know what I mean? But outside of that, there's nothing more to do, really.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think we covered a lot. We're 43 minutes in. I feel like there was a lot of
Yeah. That
good
was
little
solid.
tidbits and pieces of information in there. So, you got anything else that you want to add?
No, yeah, that was pretty much all I had.
All right, sweet. Well, we'll wrap this one up, guys. If you haven't liked the video, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, give us a sub. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.